Have you ever wondered why some people glide through life untouched, effortlessly commanding rooms, bending circumstances, and leaving a trail of awed silence behind them, while others stumble, desperate, pleading for relevance? What makes the difference between the invisible and the untouchable? The answer is not charm, not honesty, not diligence. It is strategy, cold, precise, merciless strategy. Niccolò Machiavelli, centuries before social media, Wall Street, and viral influence, dissected the human desire for power with a scalpel so sharp it could slice through pretense, loyalty, and even morality. Today, his methods would be more lethal than ever, because the same psychological truths that govern princes and warlords now govern boardrooms, online empires, and intimate betrayals. Imagine walking into a crowded cafe. You are invisible to most, yet one person senses your presence instantly. Perhaps it is the way you occupy space, the subtleties in your posture, or the shadow of confidence that whispers authority. This is not luck. This is power in motion. Machiavelli's 21 rules are not theories. They are the veins through which influence pulses, the threads that, when tugged correctly, make reality bend to the one who understands them. To understand these rules is to see the world not as it appears, but as it is, a battlefield of hidden agendas, unspoken alliances, and calculated betrayals. The first rule is deceptively simple. Appear stronger than you are. Strength, Machiavelli understood, is often perceived rather than real. Today, it manifests in the curated persona, the Instagram feed that radiates control, the LinkedIn profile that screams competence without revealing struggle. People rarely resist those who exude certainty, even if it is a mask. The mask itself becomes the power, and the world bows to the illusion. Behind every modern influencer, CEO, or politician is a carefully crafted image of invincibility. Machiavelli would nod approvingly. Appearances are the first battlefield. Mastery here ensures victories before conflict even arises. Appearances alone are insufficient. Rule 2 demands the calculation of alliances and enemies alike. People today hide behind networks, yet few understand their leverage. Machiavelli would observe the LinkedIn strategist, the viral TikTok creator, and the political operative as they navigate connections with subtlety and purpose. Every handshake, every follow, every nod is not mere social ritual, it is currency. Alliances are temporary, fluid, and must be assessed constantly. Friends can betray, enemies can serve. Only the astute understand that loyalty is conditional and trust is a tool, not a virtue. In the digital age, this is amplified 1,000-fold. One misstep in alliances can trigger viral ruin, while careful cultivation can build empires overnight. E3 is the embrace of calculated fear. Machiavelli famously said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But fear is not terror. It is influence that commands respect, enforces boundaries, and ensures compliance. In contemporary life, fear can be subtle. A sharp email, a reputation for decisiveness, a reputation for ruthless efficiency. It is not cruelty for its own sake, but a strategic instrument to control behavior. Those who underestimate this rule often find themselves trampled, their kindness mistaken for weakness, their generosity for gullibility. In every sphere of modern power, subtle fear ensures the rules bend in your favor. The world respects those who are not easily crossed, those whose limits are invisible but unyielding. Rule 4. Understand timing as a weapon. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the prepared mind, but he also knew that timing is often decisive. The wrong move at the wrong moment can unravel years of careful work. Today, timing manifests in launches, statements, negotiations, and revelations. The person who speaks last, who waits, who watches the currents before striking, controls outcomes. This is the rhythm of power, knowing when to advance, when to retreat, when to unleash influence, and when to conceal intent. The impatient are always exposed, the measured always dominate. Machiavelli's lesson echoes, mastery over time is mastery over men. The fifth rule confronts the uncomfortable truth. Embrace adaptability ruthlessly. The rigid fall, the flexible thrive. In the modern era, industries, trends, and public sentiment shift at breakneck speed. Machiavelli would see every startup pivot, every viral trend, every corporate restructuring as a battlefield where only the agile survive. The mind that clings to old formulas, old loyalties, old moral certainties becomes prey. To thrive, one must constantly assess, discard, and recalibrate. Adaptability is not mere survival, it is the ability to turn chaos into advantage, to transform threat into opportunity, to make change your weapon. Yet power is never just external, it is internal. Rule 6 teaches the cultivation of emotional invisibility. Machiavelli would marvel at how few humans today manage their inner currents. Most are storm-tossed by ego, desire, or fear. The emotionally visible are predictable, exploitable, malleable. Mastery over oneself, over reaction, over impulse, is mastery over others. The unshakable calm, the unreadable demeanor, the strategic silence, they are invisible forces shaping decisions without anyone realizing it. In a heated negotiation, a subtle look, a brief pause, the mere absence of anger or excitement, these become instruments more powerful than words. Rule 7 delves into the subtle art of manipulation disguised as generosity. Machiavelli understood that overt domination breeds resistance, but influence hidden behind kindness, favors, or mentorship is nearly irresistible. Today, it is the curated compliment, the strategic introduction, the unexpected support that creates bonds of obligation. People forget favors, but they rarely forget the feeling of having been helped, subtly indebted, or strategically supported. Power cloaked in benevolence is far more enduring than power enforced by fear alone. The mind that sees this dance is always several moves ahead, turning perception into leverage. Rule 8 warns against complacency. Never underestimate the weak, the overlooked, the underestimated. In any system, whether corporate, political, or social, the invisible hand often strikes with precision. Those who are ignored, mocked, or marginalized are often the ones capable of the most decisive moves. Machiavelli's insight transcends eras. Attention must be paid to every actor, every potential variable, because the smallest pawn can become the kingmaker or destroyer. Modern power is littered with cautionary tales, individuals dismissed as insignificant who rise to topple empires. Awareness, vigilance, and preemptive strategy are the antidotes to such surprises. Rule 9 is uncomfortably practical. Control perception ruthlessly. Reality is what people believe it to be. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago, and in the age of memes, and algorithmic truth, it is more critical than ever. Reputation, narrative, and framing are weapons. The story told about you, the impressions you leave, the invisible whispers that travel faster than any announcement, these dictate influence far more than any action alone. To command the narrative is to command compliance. To let perception slip is to invite vulnerability. Rule 10 demands the embrace of calculated risk. Power is never neutral. It is always a game of leverage, opportunity, and threat. Machiavelli would counsel those who fear loss or failure that the bold often inherit the spoils, while the cautious inherit obscurity. Risk, when measured, planned, and aligned with strategic goals, becomes a force multiplier. Today, it is the viral campaign, the market gamble, the decisive confrontation that defines careers and empires. The audacious, tempered by strategy, rise where mediocrity hesitates. And yet, rules alone are insufficient. The modern Machiavellian operates in layers of observation, anticipation, and intervention. Rule 11. Observe the currents of human desire and weakness. Every conversation, every digital footprint, every hesitation betrays opportunity. Those who can read others, anticipate reactions, and manipulate outcomes without detection hold unparalleled power. This is psychological warfare in its purest form, where the battlefield is invisible and the spoils are boundless. Rule 12 demands relentless control of contingency. Fortune is cruel, unpredictable, and blind, but preparation, contingency planning, and strategic foresight convert chaos into leverage. The modern Machiavellian is never surprised. They have mapped every path, every possible interference, every weakness. To act under chaos is to fight blind. To act with contingency is to fight omniscient. Rule 13 teaches the strategic use of absence and presence. Scarcity inflates value, overexposure diminishes it. Strategic withdrawal, delayed response, or subtle invisibility magnifies influence. Today, the social media sabbatical, the silent observer in the room, the mysterious operator behind closed doors, all exemplify this principle. Power often speaks in what is unseen rather than seen. Rule 14 demands calculated cruelty when necessary, not brutality for ego, but precision strikes that neutralize threat, command respect, and clarify boundaries. History is littered with those who faltered from indecision. Machiavelli recognized that mercy must be a tool, not a habit. Modern equivalents exist in decisive firings, public shaming, or calculated exposure, actions that leave no doubt about limits and consequences. Rule 15 is the cultivation of strategic patience. Impatience is weakness, anticipation is leverage. Machiavelli would observe the world today, noting how many leap into viral trends, impulsive statements, or rash maneuvers, only to crash spectacularly. Patience allows observation, adjustment, and opportunity. It is a quiet power, but its accumulation shapes empires. Rule 16 is the mastery of deception without detection. Lies, half-truths, and misdirection, when subtle, become instruments of control. Machiavelli's genius was in teaching that the perception of truth often matters more than truth itself. Today, in negotiations, politics, and media, those who manipulate perception without exposure bend reality to their will. Rule 17 warns against the trap of overexposure of virtue. Being too generous, too moral, too publicly ethical invites exploitation. Modern society praises transparency, but Machiavelli teaches prudence. Some virtues must be private, others must be visible strategically. The imbalance of perception can create vulnerability, where the apparently perfect is the most easily Regretted. Rule 18 emphasizes calculated unpredictability. Predictability breeds manipulation. Surprise commands attention. The modern Machiavellian introduces variation in behavior, in communication, in action. Patterns, when broken, create respect, fear, and influence. People respect those who are enigmatic, who act with purpose but unpredictability. Rule 19. Never ignore the subtle threat of envy. Others' desire for your position, status, or influence must be constantly monitored. Machiavelli knew that the envier, left unchecked, becomes the most dangerous adversary. Modern equivalents manifest in sabotage, corporate espionage, or social media campaigns. Awareness, subtle countermeasures, and preemption are essential to survival. Rule 20 teaches the strategic application of charm and persuasion. Influence is amplified by charisma, by the ability to make others feel understood, needed, and motivated. Machiavelli would observe the influencer, the CEO, the political operator, and note that those who combine intellect with emotional navigation dominate far more decisively than those who rely on force alone. Charm is not superficial, it is strategic energy. And finally, Rule 21, control the story of your legacy. Machiavelli understood that death, distance, and history do not diminish influence, they amplify it, if narrative is mastered. Today, legacy is curated digitally, socially, professionally. Influence extends beyond presence, it is immortalized in perception. To wield power effectively, one must consider not only the now but the eternal impression one leaves upon the world. To follow these rules is to inhabit a realm few dare enter, to see reality with cold clarity, to move with purpose where others drift. Machiavelli would walk through today's cities, offices, and social networks with uncanny comprehension, noting every leverage point, weakness, every opportunity. His mind would recognize what others ignore, the invisible currents, the hidden motives, the power hidden in plain sight. The modern practitioner of Machiavelli's wisdom does not ask for permission, does not plead for approval, does not wait for luck. They anticipate, manipulate, dominate, and execute. Their advantage is invisible, their presence commanding, their strategy eternal. To glimpse this mind is to see the mechanisms of society laid bare, every gesture, every glance, every decision a node in the network of control. And so, as we step further into the mechanics of these 21 rules, consider this. How many of those around you operate unconsciously, trapped in morality, emotion, or ignorance, while the strategically minded glide past, silent, unseen, unstoppable? To know these rules is to wield them. To wield them is to understand human nature more sharply than anyone else. In the next chapter, we will descend even deeper into each rule, unraveling its modern manifestation, exposing the psychological levers that control behavior, and showing how mastery transforms mere ambition into absolute, undeniable influence. Prepare to confront the uncomfortable reality. The world bends to those who see clearly, who act decisively and who embrace the shadow of strategy with ruthless intelligence. Have you noticed how some people move through life like ghosts, untouchable, untethered, yet somehow orchestrating the lives of those around them? How they manipulate situations with invisible hands, adjusting outcomes, bending perception, and converting chaos into advantage. These individuals are not lucky. They are students of human nature, experts in the psychology of influence, practitioners of the ancient, dark art of strategy. Machiavelli would recognize them immediately. He would nod approvingly at their precision, at their ability to act while others react. Understanding the 21 rules of power is one thing, embodying them is another, and the difference lies in the meticulous cultivation of both internal and external dominance. The first rule, the art of appearing stronger than you are, is more than just a facade. It is a psychological weapon. In today's world, where visibility is currency, the illusion of control can be more powerful than control itself. A CEO striding into a boardroom, confident, measured, unshakable, commands compliance before a single word is spoken. A social media figure, projecting perfection, achieves influence far beyond their actual capabilities. Machiavelli would recognize this as the exploitation of perception, the fundamental truth that humans obey what they respect, and respect what they fear to challenge. It is not deception in the immoral sense. It is a strategic misalignment of reality and perception. A tactical invisibility that converts vulnerability into leverage. Rule 2, the careful calculation of alliances and enemies, is the foundation of survival and ascent. Modern life, with its intricate networks of social, professional, and digital connections, is a constant battlefield of shifting loyalties. The individual who understands this operates with foresight, assessing every interaction for potential advantage or threat. They nurture relationships selectively, maintain subtle hierarchies of influence, and never reveal the full extent of their strategy. Alliances are not eternal. They are fluid instruments of power, to be reinforced or dissolved as circumstances demand. The uninitiated trust blindly. The strategist calculates, anticipates, and exploits. Fear, the third rule, is the quiet engine of influence. In contemporary contexts, fear is rarely overt. It is the recognition of consequences, the invisible barrier that guides behavior without visible coercion. A negoti. Ator, with a reputation for decisiveness, a manager whose expectations are unambiguous, a competitor whose responses are swift and unyielding. These individuals wield fear strategically. Fear is not cruelty, it is the invisible boundary that ensures compliance, the subtle mechanism by which power enforces itself. To underestimate its necessity is to invite chaos, to mistake kindness for strength, and to court irrelevance. Timing, Rule 4, transforms potential into reality. The modern Machiavellian waits for the optimal moment, balancing patience with anticipation. Whether launching a product, revealing information, or confronting a rival, the individual who masters timing manipulates outcomes without visible force. The impatient flail, the strategic wait, observing, calculating, allows one to strike with disproportionate effect. Time becomes both shield and weapon, a medium through which influence flows imperceptibly, yet inexorably. Adaptability, the fifth rule, is survival and supremacy combined. The world today evolves faster than any single human can fully comprehend. Industries collapse, trends vanish, public sentiment shifts in hours. Those who cling to rigid systems, outdated morals, or static expectations fall prey to circumstance. Machiavelli's teaching is clear. Flexibility, when guided by strategy, transforms unpredictability into opportunity. To survive and to dominate, one must embrace change not reluctantly, but as a deliberate tool. Every pivot, every recalibration, every adaptive maneuver is a move in a silent game, one that few perceive and fewer master. Rule 6, the cultivation of emotional invisibility, is the fortress of strategy. Those who reveal too much of their inner state, who betray anxiety, desire, or impatience, render themselves predictable, vulnerable, and manipulable. The modern power player practices restraint, observing emotional tide, without surrendering to them. A calm exterior, unreadable in expression, allows one to shape outcomes silently, to influence without force. In high-stakes negotiations, a simple pause, an absence of reaction, or a carefully measured expression communicates volumes without a word. Emotional invisibility is not denial, it is deliberate control, the mastery of internal currents to command external realities. Manipulation disguised as generosity, Rule 7, transforms human instinct into leverage. Machiavelli understood that direct domination sparks resistance, but influence hidden behind kindness or mentorship is nearly irresistible. Today, strategic favors, curated introductions, or carefully timed assistance create obligations that extend power silently. The recipient of a favor may feel gratitude, loyalty, or subtle indebtedness, often without realizing that the act itself was a calculated mechanism of control. Influence cloaked in benevolence endures longer than influence imposed through overt intimidation. Complacency, or the failure to recognize latent threats, is the Achilles heel of the untrained. Rule 8 warns that even the weakest, most overlooked, or underestimated individuals possess the potential to disrupt, subvert, or dominate. History and modern society alike are replete with stories of ignored actors who rise unexpectedly, toppling perceived hierarchies. The strategic mind accounts for every actor, every variable, every unseen force. To ignore the subtle threat of the underestimated is to invite catastrophe. Vigilance, observation, and preemptive strategy are essential to survival and dominance. Perception, Rule 9, is the lens through which all power flows. Reality matters less than the perception of reality. Reputation, narrative, and framing are tools far more potent than overt action. In modern life, where information spreads instantly, controlling the story is tantamount to controlling the world. Social media campaigns, press releases, and public statements are extensions of this principle. To manipulate perception subtly, without exposure, is to orchestrate outcomes before they occur. The strategist recognizes that most conflicts are won or lost in the theater of belief, long before confrontation begins. Calculated risk, Rule 10, is the lifeblood of opportunity. Power requires action, yet action without foresight is recklessness. The modern Machiavellian weighs potential gain against potential loss, aligning audacity with intelligence. Viral campaigns, market gambles, and strategic confrontations exemplify this principle. Boldness, tempered by strategy, magnifies influence, while excessive caution fosters irrelevance. The risk-taker, aligned with circumstance, converts uncertainty into leverage. The hesitant are consumed by it. Observation, Rule 11, is the silent weapon. Every interaction, every hesitation, every micro-expression is data, a clue to desires, weaknesses, and opportunities. The observant strategist reads patterns invisible to the casual eye. In corporate environments, political arenas, or social spheres, this insight allows preemption and manipulation. Observation is preparation, observation is power. To ignore it is to surrender influence without contest. Rule 12, the control of contingency, transforms chaos into advantage. Fortune is capricious, unfeeling, and often cruel, yet the prepared mind converts uncertainty into leverage. Contingency planning is not mere insurance, it is a proactive orchestration of potential outcomes. The modern Machiavellian anticipates disruption, charts responses, and maneuvers within uncertainty to extract opportunity. Chaos is a tool, foresight is the hand that wields it. The strategic use of presence and absence, Rule 13, manipulates PE. Reception. Visibility inflates value, overexposure diminishes it. Withdrawal, silence, subtle engagement, these amplify influence. In the digital age, where attention is currency, the ability to appear when advantageous and vanish when necessary enhances control. The unseen hand often governs far more than the visible one, and the one who masters absence commands the space itself. Calculated cruelty, Rule 14, is precision, not brutality. In decisive moments, the strategic imposition of consequence establishes boundaries, enforces respect, and clarifies power hierarchies. Modern examples abound: decisive firings, public exposure of misconduct, or swift legal action serve as warnings. Cruelty, when measured, communicates dominance without excess. Cruelty without purpose invites retaliation. Machiavelli's insight transcends time. Clarity through consequence is indispensable. Strategic patience, Rule 15, is the quiet accumulation of leverage. Impulsivity is weakness, observation, anticipation, and calculated restraint are power. Viral phenomena, market disruptions, and political campaigns often reward those who wait for the precise moment. Patience is invisible influence, a silent shaping of circumstance, allowing one to strike when conditions maximize advantage. Deception without detection, Rule 16, is the subtle manipulation of truth. Lies, omissions, and selective disclosure are instruments of control when used with precision. Modern negotiations, media narratives, and strategic communications rely on this principle. The perception of truth matters more than objective reality. The strategist bends belief without exposure, creating advantage invisible to all but themselves. The overexposure of virtue, Rule 17, invites exploitation. Excessive transparency, publicized morality, or overt ethical posturing signals vulnerability. The modern Machiavellian balances visibility with discretion, displaying virtue strategically, privately cultivating strength where public scrutiny would weaken it. The perception of perfection, when managed, becomes an instrument of influence. When uncontrolled, it becomes a liability. Unpredictability, Rule 18, commands attention and respect. Predictable behavior invites manipulation. Variation in action, speech, and engagement confers dominance. The strategic mind introduces controlled volatility, creating psychological leverage. In negotiation, leadership, or social influence, unpredictability ensures others defer to judgment, not whim, respecting the invisible mastery behind deliberate variance. Envy, Rule 19, is a constant threat. Those who desire your status, influence, or position are inherently motivated to disrupt. Machiavelli's insight remains: anticipate envy, monitor potential rivals, and neutralize threats subtly. In modern contexts, this manifests in preemptive reputation management, strategic exposure, or controlled empowerment, turning potential sabotage into predictable outcomes. Charm and persuasion, Rule 20, amplify influence. Emotional intelligence, the ability to inspire loyalty, trust, and alignment, complements strategic calculation. Machiavelli would note that intellect alone is insufficient. The combination of cognition and emotional manipulation ensures obedience, admiration, and subtle dominance. Influence is not coercion. It is attraction, persuasion, and the invisible alignment of desire with intent. Finally, the control of legacy, Rule 21, transcends immediate influence. Reputation, narrative, and historical framing ensure that power persists beyond presence. In the digital era, this is curated online identity, professional accomplishments, and social perception. Influence survives distance and time. When narrative is mastered, it fades when perception is neglected. The Machiavellian mind always accounts for the unseen, the future, and the lasting imprint of every action. At this juncture, the rules themselves are not abstract doctrines. They are living instruments. They exist in the mind of the strategist, flowing through decision, gesture, and observation. Machiavelli's genius was not in cataloging moral ideals, but in mapping the currents of human behavior with unmatched clarity. Modern life, accelerated, connected, and relentless, offers both opportunity and danger for those who understand, or fail to understand, these principles. Every interaction, whether on social media, in corporate spaces, or intimate relationships, is an arena for subtle domination, influence, and survival. To embody these rules is to adopt a mindset that transcends conventional morality. It is a dark, disciplined understanding that power is not granted. It is seized, maintained, and perfected through observation, anticipation, and strategic action. The world rewards decisiveness, punishes naivety, and elevates those who read the invisible dynamics others ignore. Mastery is not about brutality, deceit, or fear alone. It is about the orchestration of perception, the manipulation of circumstance, and the quiet, invisible application of influence. As we progress into the next chunk, we will dissect real-world applications, psychological underpinnings, and behavioral strategies. Each rule will be brought to life in scenarios reflecting contemporary environments, corporate hierarchies, political maneuvers, digital influence, and social negotiation. The principles will transform from theory into tactical blueprint, revealing how Machiavelli's insight remains terrifyingly relevant, precise, and actionable. The question lingers as we advance. Are you prepared to confront not only the strategies of others, but the shadows within? Yourself? To see the world as it is, unflinchingly, and operate with intelligence, ruthlessness, and subtlety. The path ahead is uncomfortably truthful, demanding, and profound, yet only those who dare to navigate it gain mastery over the currents that shape every interaction, every outcome, every life. Have you ever sensed that subtle vibration in a room, the almost imperceptible shift in attention, the way people unconsciously pivot toward one presence and away from another? That is power at work, not the loud, blustering domination that populates headlines or boardroom gossip, but the quiet, meticulous orchestration of influence that defines true mastery. Machiavelli would have smiled at the modern manifestation of this phenomenon, for it is exactly what he described centuries ago. Power is a living, breathing entity, manipulated through perception, anticipation, and the invisible hand of strategy. Consider Rule 1 again, the art of appearing stronger than you are. In the digital age, this is amplified 1,000-fold. Your online presence, your curated identity, your strategic visibility, all function as extensions of yourself. A single tweet, post, or carefully timed public statement can signal authority, competence, and control. The illusion of strength generates real influence because humans respond to perceived capability faster than actual capability. The modern Machiavellian understands that power is a psychological contract. You signal dominance, others defer, and the mere projection of strength translates into opportunity. The most potent influencers are not always the most skilled. They are the ones who appear invincible, a mirage so convincing that challenge feels impossible. Alliances, Rule 2, are the arteries through which modern influence flows, but Machiavelli would warn that not all alliances are equal. In today's hyper-connected society, every interaction, every handshake, every mutual follow carries weight. Strategic partnerships are cultivated with precision, leveraging the resources, networks, and influence of others without surrendering autonomy. The modern Machiavellian navigates this complex web, constantly re-evaluating loyalty, anticipating betrayal, and exploiting leverage. It is a silent war, waged in relationships, emails, and meetings, where the victor emerges not by brute force, but through foresight and subtle domination of the relational landscape. Fear, Rule 3, manifests in subtler, more sophisticated forms than physical intimidation. It is the fear of consequence, the fear of unpredictability, the fear of being outmaneuvered. In workplaces, social networks, or political arenas, fear is wielded quietly, a reputation for decisiveness, an unyielding moral boundary, or the simple act of being strategically unavailable. Fear is a signal. It communicates that crossing boundaries carries cost. Machiavelli recognized that influence grounded in fear is durable precisely because it commands voluntary compliance. Those who underestimate this force mistake friendliness for strength and kindness for leverage. Timing, Rule 4, is both a shield and a weapon. Patience allows observation, calculation, and preparation. The modern Machiavellian watches for the perfect moment to act, whether to launch a campaign, release information, or confront an adversary. Impulsive action exposes weakness. Strategic patience amplifies power. The timing of decisions, the sequencing of statements, the orchestration of events, all these subtly guide perception and outcome. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors preparation, but preparation must be coupled with timing. Insight alone achieves nothing without precise application. Adaptability, Rule 5, separates survival from dominance. Modern life is a constant flux of trends, market shifts, and public sentiment. Those who cling to old formulas falter. Those who pivot, recalibrate, and evolve exploit change as opportunity. Adaptability is not reaction, it is preemptive strategy, a conscious choice to transform chaos into advantage. Machiavelli's genius lies in recognizing that human behavior is dynamic, and mastery requires the ability to shift tactics, alliances, and perception fluidly. The strategist thrives because they see patterns others ignore and act where others hesitate. Rule 6. The cultivation of emotional invisibility is the keystone of psychological mastery. Humans are predictably irrational, governed by impulses, ego, and desire. The untrained reveal too much, betray weakness, and become manipulable. The modern Machiavellian conceals emotion, maintaining a calm, unreadable exterior while observing the currents around them. A pause, a controlled glance, a carefully measured tone, these become instruments that shape behavior silently. Emotional invisibility is not suppression, it is strategic governance of self, a tool that allows one to direct interactions without revealing intent. Manipulation disguised as generosity, Rule 7, exploits the natural human tendency toward reciprocity. Modern examples abound: the mentor who subtly positions allies, the manager who strategically grants favors, the influencer whose curated support engenders loyalty. The recipient feels indebted, often unaware that the act is a calculated instrument of influence. Machiavelli understood that overt domination breeds resistance. Influence cloaked in perceived altruism endures, quietly shaping decisions, loyalties, and outcomes. Complacency, Rule 8, is a vulnerability the modern Machiavellian exploits. Underestimating the overlooked, the underestimated, or the marginalized is fatal. In social, corporate, and political arenas, these duels often harbor insight, capability, or audacity invisible to the careless. The strategist maintains vigilance, scanning for latent threats, hidden ambitions, and subtle shifts. Awareness is survival. Ignorance is invitation to subversion. The weakest often become the decisive, and the unobservant are the first to fall. Rule 9, the control of perception, is the silent architect of power. Reality matters less than the perception of reality. Reputation, framing, and narrative are the instruments through which influence flows. Social media, press coverage, and public statements become battlegrounds for perception. Strategic manipulation of perception, subtle misdirection, calculated omissions, or selective highlighting shapes outcomes before confrontation arises. The Machiavellian mind recognizes that most victories are won in the theater of belief, rather than the arena of action. Calculated risk, Rule 10, is the engine of advancement. Boldness, tempered by intelligence and timing, amplifies influence. Whether launching a disruptive product, challenging a dominant narrative, or confronting opposition, measured risk transforms potential into achievement. Recklessness is punished, audacity, aligned with strategy, is rewarded. The modern Machiavellian calculates outcomes, assesses probabilities, and embraces opportunity while minimizing exposure. Risk becomes leverage, and the hesitant are eclipsed by those willing to act decisively. Observation, Rule 11, converts raw information into actionable insight. Every micro-expression, hesitation, and subtle shift conveys motive, weakness, and opportunity. The strategist reads the invisible currents others overlook, transforming perception into advantage. In negotiation, leadership, and social maneuvering, observation allows anticipation and intervention, creating influence without visible exertion. The unobservant stum. Blindly, the perceptive navigate as if omniscient. Contingency, Rule 12, transforms chaos into a controlled instrument. Fortune is fickle, disruption is inevitable. Preparation, alternative pathways, and flexible strategies convert uncertainty into leverage. The modern Machiavellian anticipates missteps, plots responses, and ensures that even unforeseen events enhance, rather than impede, influence. Contingency is not passive, it is proactive orchestration, a silent mastery of probability, ensuring dominance across scenarios. Presence and absence, Rule 13, manipulate value and attention. Strategic withdrawal enhances significance. Careful visibility amplifies influence. In the modern digital landscape, scarcity and timing magnify authority. The unseen hand guides the outcome. The absent presence commands attention. Those who fail to regulate engagement are diluted, while those who master invisibility and selective emergence dominate perception. Calculated cruelty, Rule 14, enforces boundaries and clarifies hierarchies. Not brutality, but precision strikes that neutralize threats, convey consequences, and maintain authority. Modern examples manifest in decisive termination of alliances, exposure of misconduct, or strategic confrontation. Cruelty, measured and purposeful, instills respect without provoking chaos. The Machiavellian mind recognizes that decisive action is both a deterrent and a signal of competence. Strategic patience, Rule 15, is the quiet accumulation of influence. Those who leap impulsively are exposed. Those who wait, observe, and plan strike with disproportionate effect. Patience allows insight, adjustment, and precision, ensuring that opportunity is seized at maximum advantage. Time, wielded deliberately, becomes a silent weapon, shaping the trajectory of events beyond immediate perception. Deception without detection, Rule 16, manipulates reality subtly. Lies, selective truth, and omission bend outcomes without revealing intent. In modern negotiations, media narratives, and social influence, this principle is indispensable. The perception of truth often outweighs truth itself, allowing mastery over circumstances invisible to the untrained eye. The overexposure of virtue, Rule 17, invites exploitation. Excessive transparency signals weakness. Modern Machiavellians balance the public display of ethics with private cultivation of strength. Strategic visibility transforms virtue into influence. Uncontrolled exposure invites exploitation. Reputation is currency, and managing perception of morality is a tactical necessity. Unpredictability, Rule 18, commands attention and ensures deference. Controlled variation in behavior, communication, and decision-making creates uncertainty in observers, amplifying influence. In negotiation, leadership, and social hierarchies, unpredictability fosters respect, fear, and alignment with the strategist's intent. Predictable actors are manipulated. Enigmatic actors dominate. Envy, Rule 19, is a latent threat that must be anticipated. Rivals, motivated by desire for position, influence, or status, are dangerous if ignored. Monitoring, preemptive measures, and subtle management of potential adversaries neutralize this risk. Machiavelli understood that unchecked envy often catalyzes opposition, sabotage, and collapse. The modern strategist converts latent envy into predictable outcomes, controlling its expression without confrontation. Charm and persuasion, Rule 20, amplify influence exponentially. Emotional intelligence, subtle manipulation of loyalty, and strategic alignment of desires with intent ensure obedience and admiration. Machiavelli would note, intellect alone is insufficient, must. Rye requires emotional orchestration. Influence, when paired with strategic calculation, commands outcomes without overt force. Finally, control of legacy, Rule 21, ensures that influence persists beyond immediate action. Narrative, perception, and historical framing transform temporary power into enduring authority. In the digital age, reputation is codified permanently. Each action, statement, and interaction leaves traces that shape influence indefinitely. Mastery of legacy is mastery of perception across time. At this stage, it becomes evident these rules are not abstract theories, but living mechanisms, embedded in every human interaction, digital signal, and social exchange. Machiavelli's insight transcends centuries. Modern society merely amplifies the consequences of mastery or neglect. To internalize and embody these principles is to navigate reality with precision, influence outcomes invisibly, and maintain dominance where others falter. But there is a shadow to this knowledge. Understanding these rules forces recognition of human nature in its rawest, most unflinching form. Ambition, desire, weakness, and fear are constants. Every interaction becomes a battlefield, every relationship a potential lever. To wield power effectively is to accept discomfort, to navigate moral ambiguity, and to embrace the cold calculus of consequence. The world bends to those who master these currents. It punishes those who remain blind to them. As we move into the next phase, the principles will be explored through modern case studies, psychological frameworks, and behavioral narratives. We will witness how these rules manifest in corporate empires, digital arenas, political landscapes, and social dynamics. Each illustration will reveal not only the mechanism of influence, but the subtle artistry required to wield it effectively, ensuring that Machiavelli's dark, brilliant insight is not just understood, but lived. Have you ever wondered why certain individuals always seem to emerge unscathed from chaos, unchallenged even when circumstances appear stacked against them? Why some people wield influence so effortlessly that others are left wondering if they were ever truly in control at all? The answer lies in strategy. Cold, deliberate, unyielding strategy. And no mind studied it more ruthlessly than Machiavelli's. His rules are not antiquated advice for kings and princes. They are psychological instruments, refined and sharpened to perfection, designed to operate invisibly in the modern world. To observe someone who has mastered them is to watch invisible currents bending reality, as though the world itself were responding to a silent command. Consider Rule 1, the art of appearing stronger than you are. In a boardroom, This is not about being the loudest voice or the flashiest presence. It is about projection, of calm certainty, of competence beyond scrutiny, of invisible authority. A modern CEO walks into a room and commands attention not by force but by posture, gaze, and calculated timing of speech. Every subtle cue is a signal, confidence, capability, and power. In digital spaces, this principle is amplified 1,000-fold. An Instagram account that radiates control, a Twitter feed curated for influence, a LinkedIn profile that suggests unassailable competence, all are modern extensions of this timeless rule. Machiavelli understood that perception often governs reality. Influence is less about action than about what others believe about your capacity to act. Rule 2. Alliances becomes a complex dance in contemporary networks. Strategic relationships are not forged solely from loyalty or friendship. They are instruments of influence. The modern Machiavellian evaluates every connection for potential leverage, anticipating loyalty, betrayal, and opportunity. Alliances are temporary, dynamic, and instrumental. The strategist knows when to nurture, when to discard, and when to subtly manipulate these relationships to serve larger objectives. In corporate, political, or digital arenas, a single well-placed ally, or the subtle neutralization of a potential adversary, can alter trajectories profoundly. The invisible calculus of allegiance is constant, and the one who masters it moves unseen while others stumble. Fear, Rule 3, operates not through overt intimidation, but subtle signals of consequence. In workplaces, social interactions, and public discourse, fear is a quiet, omnipresent force. It is the knowledge that crossing a boundary will carry cost, the awareness that certain moves trigger subtle but decisive retaliation. Modern Machiavellians cultivate a reputation for decisiveness and consequence. This fear is not cruelty for its own sake. It is a mechanism of control. People respond more readily to perceived authority than to actual authority. Those who ignore this principle mistake kindness for strength, openness for trustworthiness, and emotional transparency for honesty. Timing, Rule 4, is both weapon and shield. The strategist does not act first but last, striking when observation and patience create maximum leverage. Launching a product, negotiating a deal, or revealing information prematurely diminishes impact. Waiting allows momentum, perception, and opportunity to align perfectly. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors those who prepare but strike when conditions favor them. In modern life, timing can determine not only success, but survival. The audacious leap too soon risks exposure. The measured strike achieves dominance with minimal resistance. Adaptability, Rule 5, is the lifeblood of survival. The world today is a relentless flux of markets, trends, public opinion, and technology. Those who cling to outdated models, principles, or tactics are swiftly outmaneuvered. The Machiavellian embraces change, manipulating it as an instrument rather than resisting it. Flexibility is not passivity, it is calculated adjustment, the conscious choice to turn chaos into leverage. The strategist views every shift not as threat but as opportunity, transforming uncertainty into an advantage invisible to the unprepared eye. Rule 6, the cultivation of emotional invisibility, is central to modern mastery. Most humans are predictable because they betray inner currents, desire, fear, impatience. Those who conceal emotion, maintaining an unreadable exterior, gain disproportionate influence. In negotiations, leadership, and social interactions, a subtle pause, measured glance, or controlled response can shape outcomes without force. Emotional invisibility is not suppression but governance of self, a tool to guide behavior and perception in others while remaining imperceptible. Manipulation disguised as generosity, Rule 7, exploits the natural human instinct for reciprocity. Modern Machiavellians give strategically, a favor here, an introduction there, a well-timed endorsement. The recipient feels loyalty, obligation, or gratitude, rarely perceiving the act as manipulation. Power cloaked in benevolence is durable, invisible, and effective. Machiavelli understood that overt domination triggers resistance. Subtle indebtedness creates alignment and influence. Complacency, Rule 8, is fatal. The underestimated, the overlooked, the marginalized often harbor capability or audacity, invisible to casual observers. Modern Machiavellians anticipate the unexpected, watching latent threats and opportunities alike. Vigilance is survival. Ignoring subtle forces, the quiet employee, the hidden competitor, the online critic, invites disruption. Strategic awareness ensures one is never caught unprepared. Perception, Rule 9, is the lens through which all influence is filtered. Reality matters less than what others believe to be true. Modern Machiavellians shape perception through narrative, public statements, media engagement, and curated social visibility. Subtle misdirection, selective disclosure, and framing allow influence to operate invisibly, shaping decisions before confrontation occurs. The strategist understands that most battles are won in belief long before action begins. Calculated risk, Rule 10, distinguishes action from inaction. Boldness aligned with intelligence and timing amplifies power. Whether in corporate strategy, political maneuvering, or social influence, risk transforms opportunity into achievement. Recklessness invites disaster. Strategic audacity produces decisive outcomes. The modern Machiavellian calculates, aligns, and seizes leverage where others hesitate, turning uncertainty into a tool of dominance. Observation, Rule 11, converts data into power. Every hesitation, glance, or reaction conveys opportunity. The perceptive strategist decodes these signals, predicting behavior and manipulating outcomes silently. Observation is preparation. Preparation is mastery. Those who fail to see what is hidden become predictable and vulnerable. Contingency, Rule 12, transforms chaos into leverage. Fortune is fickle. The prepared mind converts unpredictability into advantage. Alternate pathways, flexible strategies, and pre-planned responses allow influence to persist across scenarios. Modern Machiavellians do not merely survive disruption, they exploit it, bending circumstances to their will. Chaos becomes a controlled instrument, leveraged silently, invisibly, powerfully. Presence and absence. Rule 13, manipulate attention and value. Strategic withdrawal enhances perception. Selective emergence amplifies influence. Digital scarcity, deliberate silence, or calculated engagement generates authority and demand. Those who fail to regulate presence are diluted. Those who control attention dominate perception. Calculated cruelty, Rule 14, is precision, not excess. Swift, decisive action neutralizes threat, enforces boundaries, and clarifies power hierarchies. Modern examples: firing a disruptive employee, exposing deception, or preemptive strategic action, illustrate this principle. Cruelty conveys competence and command, reinforcing influence without inviting retaliation when executed with exactitude. Strategic patience, Rule 15, is the quiet accumulation of leverage. Impulsive actors expose weakness. Patient strategists observe, anticipate, and strike when conditions maximize advantage. Time, wielded deliberately, is a silent, potent instrument of dominance, shaping outcomes beyond immediate perception. Deception without detection, Rule 16, manipulates reality subtly. Lies, selective truth, and omission bend outcomes while concealing intent. Modern negotiations, public relations, and digital influence rely on this principle. Perception of truth often outweighs truth itself, allowing mastery over circumstances invisible to untrained observers. Overexposure of virtue, Rule 17, invites exploitation. Excessive transparency, moral posturing, or publicized ethics signal vulnerability. Modern Machiavellians balance public display with private cultivation of strength. Strategic visibility transforms virtue into leverage, uncontrolled exposure. E invites manipulation. Reputation is a weapon, perception management is critical. Unpredictability, Rule 18, commands attention and respect. Controlled variance in action, speech, or engagement creates uncertainty in observers, enhancing influence. In negotiation, leadership, and social hierarchies, unpredictability fosters deference to judgment rather than whim, ensuring alignment with strategic intent. Envy, Rule 19, is a latent threat that must be anticipated and managed. Rivals motivated by desire for status or influence are inherently dangerous if ignored. Monitoring, preemption, and subtle management convert potential disruption into predictable outcomes. Machiavelli recognized envy as a catalyst for opposition and sabotage. The modern strategist neutralizes it silently. Charm and persuasion, Rule 20, amplify influence exponentially. Emotional intelligence, subtle manipulation of loyalty, and alignment of desires with intent to secure obedience and admiration. Machiavelli would observe the interplay of intellect and emotional orchestration as a force multiplier, ensuring compliance without overt coercion. Finally, Rule 21, control of legacy, ensures influence persists beyond immediate action. Narrative, reputation, and historical framing transform temporary power into enduring authority. In the digital age, each action, statement, and interaction leaves traces shaping influence indefinitely. Mastery of legacy is mastery of perception across time, ensuring that impact extends beyond presence. These rules are not abstractions, they are living instruments, operating invisibly in every social, corporate, and digital interaction. Mastery requires self-discipline, emotional control, strategic foresight, and relentless observation. Those who ignore them are manipulated. Those who internalize them dominate silently, bending the currents of and behavior to their will. In the next chunk, we will explore dramatic, modern examples of these principles in action, showing the subtle orchestration of influence across industries, politics, and personal relationships. The psychological levers will be revealed, demonstrating how the Machiavellian mind navigates ambition, conflict, and human desire with precision, turning strategy into tangible power. Have you ever watched someone take control of a room without speaking a word, commanding attention so completely that every motion of the body, every glance, every pause seems calculated, yet natural? Have you noticed how certain individuals manipulate events, people, and perceptions simultaneously, orchestrating outcomes that appear effortless? This is the essence of Machiavelli's genius. Power is invisible, strategic, and psychological. To observe it in action is to witness mastery over human nature itself. The previous chunks outlined the rules. Now, the dark artistry of application comes to life in modern scenarios, revealing how influence manifests in the digital age, corporate boardrooms, political arenas, and personal relationships alike. Consider Rule 1. Appear stronger than you are. In a contemporary corporate setting, a junior executive steps into a leadership role during a crisis. They possess neither the full authority nor the experience to dominate, yet they project unshakable confidence, carefully controlling posture, tone, and decision-making. Subordinates defer, competitors hesitate, and opportunities align. The illusion of strength generates real compliance, because perception often outweighs reality. Online, the same principle operates in social media presence. Influencers with carefully curated feeds appear more capable, charismatic, and influential than reality might suggest. Machiavelli would recognize this as the timeless mechanism of psychology. Leverage, influence, is as much about how you are perceived as what you can actually do. Rule 2, alliances, is the lifeblood of influence. A politician, CEO, or social strategist maneuvers through networks, forming partnerships that provide leverage and opportunity. Alliances are assessed constantly, loyalty is observed, influence measured, and opportunities exploited without revealing true intent. In a startup ecosystem, an entrepreneur leverages early investors, strategic partners, and key advisors, cultivating relationships not out of necessity, but as instruments of influence. The Machiavellian mind constantly recalibrates alliances, exploiting loyalty while remaining unbound, ensuring that relationships serve objectives rather than constraining them. Rule 3, fear as influence, is subtle yet profoundly effective. Consider a manager renowned for decisiveness. Employees know that inefficiency, deception, or inaction carries consequence. There is no overt intimidation, yet compliance is universal, boundaries respected, and authority acknowledged. Fear, in this sense, is not cruelty. It is the invisible force that regulates behavior, ensuring that others act in alignment with strategy. In politics, a candidate's reputation for swift retribution against adversaries discourages attacks and creates deference. In social environments, an individual known for unflinching resolve commands respect without confrontation. Timing, Rule 4, transforms potential into reality. A strategic investor observes market conditions, competitor behavior, and trends before making a move. They wait until external forces are aligned, striking with precision to maximize impact. In the digital world, timing a product launch, viral campaign, or public announcement can mean the difference between obscurity and influence. Machiavelli's insight is clear. Opportunity is worthless without temp. Oral mastery. The strategist's patience converts potential into dominance. Rule 5, adaptability, is critical in an era of constant change. Trends, technologies, and societal norms evolve rapidly. The Machiavellian mind thrives here, pivoting strategy, alliances, and perception fluidly. Consider a corporate leader who transforms a failing division into a market leader by embracing digital disruption, anticipating shifts in consumer behavior, and adjusting operations proactively. Adaptability is not reactive, it is anticipatory, a deliberate application of flexibility as a mechanism of influence. Those who resist change become irrelevant, those who adapt dominate. Rule 6, the cultivation of emotional invisibility, ensures control over perception. Leaders, negotiators, and influencers conceal internal states, observing reactions without revealing intent. A pause, a measured expression, or controlled tone communicates authority and shapes outcomes invisibly. Emotional invisibility converts personal restraint into strategic leverage. In negotiations, it allows one to manipulate behavior without overt pressure. In social influence, it commands respect by signaling unshakable control. Manipulation disguised as generosity, Rule 7, is a tool of subtle indebtedness. Strategic favors, well-timed advice, and curated assistance create obligations and loyalty without overt coercion. A mentor who offers selective guidance positions allies strategically, generating influence and reciprocity. In social media, endorsements, collaborations, and shared visibility cultivate perceived allegiance, subtly shaping networks of influence. Machiavelli's insight remains clear. Power is rarely asserted directly, it is orchestrated beneath the surface, concealed within perceived benevolence. Complacency, Rule 8, is the downfall of many. The underestimated often wield latent influence, c. Capable of upheaval. Consider a quiet employee who observes weaknesses and opportunities unnoticed by leadership, later orchestrating initiatives that shift organizational power. The modern Machiavellian recognizes latent threats, anticipates disruption, and converts potential vulnerabilities into strategic advantage. Vigilance, constant assessment, and anticipation of the overlooked are essential to maintaining dominance. Rule 9. Perception control shapes reality itself. In media, politics, and social influence, narrative outweighs fact. A company facing scandal manages perception through selective disclosure, strategic messaging, and subtle framing, ensuring influence persists despite adversity. On social platforms, perception governs engagement, trust, and visibility. Machiavelli recognized that reality is secondary to belief. Influence is achieved by controlling what others perceive as truth. Calculated risk, Rule 10, differentiates bold action from reckless exposure. Entrepreneurs, politicians, and social strategists weigh potential gain against potential fallout. Viral campaigns, product launches, and strategic confrontations illustrate the principle. Boldness, when aligned with foresight and timing, amplifies influence. Audacity is rewarded, hesitation fosters irrelevance. Modern Machiavellians convert risk into leverage, transforming uncertainty into decisive advantage. Observation, Rule 11, transforms behavior into information. Every micro-expression, hesitation, and interaction conveys opportunity or weakness. Skilled strategists decode these signals to anticipate moves, shape responses, and influence outcomes invisibly. Observation allows one to intervene subtly, directing events before they unfold. The perceptive manipulate dynamics, the inattentive are manipulated. Contingency, Rule 12, turns unpredictability into control. Fortune is fickle. Preparation converts chaos into advantage. Alternative strategies, pre-planned responses, and anticipatory measures allow influence to persist even amid disruption. Modern Machiavellians do not merely react. They anticipate, bending circumstances to their design. Chaos becomes a canvas for strategic mastery. Rule 13, presence and absence, manages visibility. Strategic withdrawal magnifies attention. Deliberate engagement amplifies influence. Digital scarcity, selective public appearances, and controlled participation enhance authority. The unseen hand governs perception. The visible strategist commands influence without overt force. Those who fail to manage attention are diluted. Those who control it dominate. Calculated cruelty, Rule 14, establishes boundaries. Targeted action neutralizes threats, communicates consequence, and reinforces hierarchy. Modern examples include decisive termination of partnerships, exposure of unethical behavior, or preemptive strategic moves. Cruelty, when precise, conveys competence and control without provoking unnecessary retaliation. Machiavelli recognized that decisive action signals mastery, ensuring others defer to strategic authority. Strategic patience, Rule 15, allows leverage to accumulate. Impulsivity exposes weakness. Measured observation enables precise intervention. Time is wielded as a silent weapon, shaping outcomes beyond immediate perception. Modern Machiavellians strike when conditions maximize influence, converting patience into power. Deception without detection, Rule 16, manipulates belief subtly. Lies, selective truth, and omission influence outcomes while concealing intent. Negotiators, marketers, and influencers leverage this principle to shape perception, guiding behavior invisibly. Mastery of belief over fact ensures control in complex environments. Overexposure of virtue, Rule 17, invites exploitation. Excessive transparency, moral posturing, or publicized ethics signal vulnerability. Machiavellians balance visibility with discretion, ensuring that virtue strengthens influence rather than inviting attack. Reputation is weaponized. Perception management is a strategic imperative. Unpredictability, Rule 18, commands attention and respect. Controlled variance in action, speech, or behavior generates uncertainty, enhancing authority. Negotiators, leaders, and influencers maintain advantage by remaining enigmatic, ensuring that others defer to judgment rather than presuming control. Envy, Rule 19, is a latent hazard that must be managed. Rivals motivated by desire for status or power are monitored, neutralized, or strategically aligned. Machiavelli observed that envy is a catalyst for opposition. Modern strategists convert potential threats into controlled outcomes, maintaining dominance subtly. Charm and persuasion, Rule 20, multiply influence. Emotional intelligence, strategic empathy, and alignment of others' desires with objectives secure loyalty, compliance, and admiration. Machiavelli recognized that intellect alone cannot command. Influence requires the orchestration of perception, emotion, and cognition. Finally, Rule 21, control of legacy, ensures enduring influence. Actions, narratives, and perceptions persist beyond presence. Modern Machiavellians curate digital footprints, professional records, and public impressions to extend authority over time. Legacy is not accidental, it is engineered, securing influence across generations, environments, and circumstances. These rules, applied with discipline, observation, and strategic foresight, transform understanding into action, potential into dominance. Mastery is invisible, psychological, and continuous. Machiavelli's brilliance lies in seeing human nature as predictable in patterns, and manipulable through subtlety, anticipation, and control. In the modern world, his principles operate with amplified potency, for perception, narrative, and influence travel faster than ever, and the cost of miscalculation is catastrophic. In the final chunk, we will synthesize these lessons into a climactic, emotionally intense exploration of power, revealing how one can embody Machiavelli's principles fully, navigating ambition, strategy, and human psychology to achieve mastery over influence, perception, and legacy. The culmination will end with a powerful call to action, urging the audience to step into the strategic shadow consciously, decisively, and unflinchingly. Have you ever looked at the world and felt its currents slipping through your fingers, opportunities passing like shadows, influence dissipating before it could take hold? That feeling, the gnawing recognition that life is not fair, that human nature is neither kind nor just, is the crucible in which true understanding of power is forged. Machiavelli would lean close, almost conspiratorially, and whisper that the world is neither moral nor benevolent, and that only those who navigate it with clarity, calculation, and courage emerge alive, influential, unchallenged. Power is not given, it is seized, maintained, and perpetuated through deliberate, disciplined mastery of human behavior. And now, after journeying through perception, fear, alliance, patience, risk, deception, and legacy. It is time to step fully into that shadow, to become the strategist who commands rather than reacts. Consider the individuals who seem untouchable in every sphere: corporate titans, political maestros, digital influencers, and social architects. None of their influence is accidental. It is cultivated, orchestrated, and projected with precision. Each move is an exercise in anticipation, each interaction an instrument of leverage, each relationship a thread in a network of calculated influence. The Machiavellian mind does not stumble. It calculates, predicts, and executes. In modern life, where visibility spreads faster than reality, where reputations form and dissolve in hours, mastery of perception becomes the linchpin of survival and dominance. Those who fail to control perception are swept aside. Those who master it bend reality to their will. Power, at its core, is psychological. It is the art of influencing belief, shaping behavior, and steering outcomes without force when possible, with force when necessary. The strategist understands that humans are predictable, driven by desire, fear, envy, and ambition. Machiavelli recognized that obedience is more often extracted through anticipation than compulsion, through calculated presence rather than brute force. In modern life, subtlety multiplies influence. A carefully placed word in a conversation, a pause at the right moment, the selective reveal of information, all are instruments that bend human behavior invisibly. Mastery is measured not in overt displays, but in unseen shifts, the quiet alignment of others' actions with your objectives, the invisible orchestration of circumstance itself. Rule after rule, principle after principle, converges into a singular truth. Mastery of self is inseparable from mastery of influence. Emotional invisibility allows observation without vulnerability. Strategic patience transforms opportunity into dominance. Calculated risk converts uncertainty into leverage. Alliances are instruments, manipulated not by friendship alone but by foresight and strategic evaluation. Fear, perception, and unpredictability operate as silent regulators of behavior, and legacy ensures that influence transcends presence, echoing through time and circumstance. Machiavelli's brilliance was in company, defying these dynamics into a framework of action, transforming moral ambiguity into strategic clarity. The modern strategist internalizes these rules, allowing them to guide decision, interaction, and ambition continuously, invisibly, and decisively. The psychological core of these rules is human nature itself. People desire recognition, security, influence, and alignment with what they perceive as strength. They fear uncertainty, exposure, failure, and confrontation with forces they cannot predict. They envy, they compete, they defer to authority when they sense competence. Machiavelli's insight, timeless and penetrating, was that these constants could be anticipated, influenced, and leveraged. The modern Machiavellian reads these patterns as if they were a map, predicting outcomes, guiding perception, and shaping behavior without overt coercion. Strategy is the art of aligning human instinct with your objectives while remaining invisible in intent. In practical terms, mastery manifests everywhere. Consider the corporate world. A leader orchestrates teams, influence flows silently, and objectives are achieved without obvious force. Every interaction, email, or decision is deliberate, calculated for maximum impact. A single strategic move, aligning with the right advisor, releasing information at a critical moment, signaling strength through absence, can transform the trajectory of projects, careers, and reputations. In political arenas, campaigns, policy maneuvers, and media messaging are orchestrated with similar precision. Influence flows through networks, perception is curated, and opponents are neutralized subtly. On social platforms, digital presence, content strategy, and engagement patterns create influence that seems effortless, yet every post, pause, and interaction is a deliberate instrument of perception and alignment. Even in personal relationships, the same principles apply. Machiavellian strategy is not cruelty for its own sake. It is the deliberate calibration of influence, observing desires, anticipating reactions, guiding perception, and applying leverage with subtlety ensures outcomes align with intent. Those who understand human psychology, anticipate motives, and act strategically wield influence far beyond overt displays of authority. Empathy, charm, persuasion, and selective generosity become instruments of alignment, creating loyalty, obligation, and subtle dominance. But mastery is not without its shadow. To internalize these principles is to confront the truth about human behavior and, more importantly, about yourself. You will recognize your own desires, weaknesses, fears, and ambitions in others. You will face moral ambiguity daily, the choice between overt kindness and strategic advantage, between immediate gratification and delayed leverage, between transparency and necessary concealment. The unprepared shy away, the disciplined confront reality with unflinching clarity. This is the crucible in which strategic mastery is forged. Discomfort, moral tension, and the relentless observation of human nature become instruments of power. To step fully into this domain is to embrace responsibility. Influence carries consequence. Perception can be weaponized or abused. Mastery does not excuse carelessness, nor does it permit impulsivity. Every interaction, every decision, every subtle gesture must be deliberate. The Machiavellian strategist internalizes these truths. Patience, observation, and anticipation are not passive. They are active instruments of control. Power is not an end in itself, it is a tool, a mechanism to shape outcomes, protect interests, and create enduring influence. Imagine now the culmination of these 21 rules in unison. A modern strategist navigates a crisis. They appear calm, confident, and unshakable. Rule 1. Align key allies subtly while assessing loyalty. Rule 2. Cultivate respect and measured fear. Rule 3. Wait for the precise moment to act. Rule 4. And pivot dynamically as circumstances evolve. Rule 5. Emotional invisibility shields internal currents. Rule 6. Generosity secures loyalty and subtle indebtedness. Rule 7. Vigilance neutralizes complacency and latent threats. Rule 8. And perception is curated to influence belief and behavior. Rule 9. Risks are calculated. Rule 10. Observation guides invisible intervention. Rule 11. Contingency converts chaos into opportunity. Rule 12. Presence is regulated strategically. Rule 13. Consequences communicated precisely. Rule 14. Patience accumulates leverage. Rule 15. Deception shapes reality. Rule 16. Virtue is displayed judiciously. Rule 17. Unpredictability commands respect. Rule 18. Envy is neutralized or managed. Rule 19. Charm secures loyalty. Rule 20. And legacy is controlled to endure beyond immediate presence. Rule 21. Each rule functions not in isolation but as part of a living, breathing orchestration. Influence is simultaneously psychological, relational, temporal, and perceptual. The strategist becomes a conductor, shaping outcomes invisibly yet decisively. The mastery of these principles transforms ambition into tangible outcomes, insight into influence, and presence into lasting authority. Those who fail to internalize them are buffeted by circumstance, manipulated by those who understand human behavior, and relegated to irrelevance. Those who embrace them gain mastery, unflinching control, and the capacity to shape reality itself. And now, the ultimate truth: knowledge alone is insufficient. Understanding Machiavelli's rules is merely the map, applying them is the journey. Mastery demands courage, discipline, observation, and relentless practice. It requires confronting discomfort, ambiguity, and the raw forces of human nature without flinching. The world will continue to operate on human instinct, fear, envy, ambition, desire, and reaction, whether you are aware of it or not. The difference between those who control and those who are controlled lies in conscious, deliberate action. The strategist does not wait for opportunity. They create it, shape it, and seize it with precision. So now, step into the shadow consciously. Observe, anticipate, calculate, and act. Align your perception with your objectives. Cultivate alliances, anticipate envy, and manipulate belief without cruelty unless necessary. Project strength, conceal vulnerability, and apply leverage strategically. Allow patience to accumulate power, deploy unpredictability to command attention, and orchestrate presence and absence to influence perception. Transform chaos into opportunity, risk into leverage, and understanding into dominance. Craft legacy intentionally, ensuring your influence endures beyond your immediate presence. The world will not wait. Fortune favors no one who hesitates. Those who understand the currents of power seize them. Those who ignore them are swept aside. Machiavelli's insight is clear. Life is neither moral nor fair, and influence is neither granted nor permanent. It is created, wielded, and perfected by those who see clearly, calculate relentlessly, and act decisively. Step forward. Internalize these truths. Act with strategy, subtlety, and unflinching clarity. Shape perception, manipulate circumstance, and orchestrate influence. Become the strategist others cannot anticipate, the force others cannot counter, and the mind that bends reality to its will. Master these rules not for cruelty, but for clarity, not for domination alone, but for the conscious, deliberate creation of power, influence, and enduring impact. The shadow is not a place of cowardice, it is the terrain of mastery. Enter it fully, decisively, and without hesitation. The world belongs to those who understand, anticipate, and act. The currents of human behavior, ambition, and desire are yours to navigate. Command them, shape them, and leave your mark on reality itself. The time is now. Step into the strategy, embrace the shadow, and seize the power that waits, unseen, for those willing to claim it.